Casual dining restaurants overall have not been performing well. It has not been the most promising market. If you follow this channel, you have likely heard me talk about the decline of many popular restaurants. Factors like the pandemic and inflation have contributed to the problem in recent years, but truthfully, I would say that most of them have been on the defensive end going back to the 1990s. That is when fast casual concepts like Chipotle started gaining traction and luring customers away. Well, in my opinion, the most impressive standout success over that time in the casual dining space has been Texas Roadhouse. According to Technomic, it is the largest chain of its kind in the United States with over $5 billion in system-wide sales. And I want to point out that Texas Roadhouse is newer than any of the others on that list. The first one opened in 1993, the same year as the first Chipotle, by the way, and it has steadily grown to over 700 locations. It is found in 49 states, and as of 2011, they have been opening restaurants internationally, starting in Dubai. I think it is funny that their annual report from that year reflected that fact by having Andy Armadillo, their mascot, on the cover leaning against the planet. I would consider this to be the biggest success story in casual dining over the past few decades, so I think it would be interesting to talk about the history of the chain while identifying what I believe to be 7 of the biggest reasons behind its success. Starting off, where else but with the founder of the company and the leader throughout most of its existence, Kent Taylor. You might expect to hear that he was from Texas, but oddly enough, he was from Louisville, Kentucky, went to college at the University of North Carolina before moving across the country to Colorado and then back home to Louisville, Kentucky. Throughout that time, he gained experience managing various chain restaurants, including Bennigan's and Hooters. Coincidentally, 2 examples of restaurants that have since filed for bankruptcy. He says that his true passion is skiing. He loves the mountains and the entire Colorado snowy setting, so he teamed up with a former governor of Kentucky, John Y. Brown, to open a Colorado-themed restaurant originally called Buckhead Hickory Grill in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. They had plans to open a second location in Indiana, but when they could not agree on the terms, Kent Taylor wanted to push forward with his own concept of a Texas-themed restaurant, but had trouble obtaining the money for it. The company has claimed that he was turned down more than 80 times trying to raise money, and allegedly even tried to chase down former NBA player Larry Bird in an airport to pitch him the idea. Well, ultimately, he pitched the idea to 3 medical doctors, originally on a napkin, and they invested $300,000 to open the first Texas Roadhouse in Clarksville, Indiana. From there, the second one was opened in Gainesville, Florida, followed by 170 more of them over the next decade. In 2004, Texas Roadhouse had an initial public stock offering that he used to pay off debt and continue opening new locations. But even then, Kent Taylor maintained majority ownership and continued to be heavily involved with the company until his death in 2021. The company and his family put out a statement saying, after a battle with post-COVID related symptoms, including severe tinnitus, Kent Taylor took his own life this week. He was 65 years old, so obviously a tragic end, and as I go back to my list, keep in mind that he was the person mostly responsible for the rest of these reasons. The next one being the Texas theme. Given the fact that Kent Taylor was more passionate about Colorado and skiing and had no personal connection to Texas, I have to believe that this was more of a business decision than a personal one. Texas is an obvious theme for a steakhouse, given the culture there and all the cows that are in the state, and back then, Texas-themed steakhouses were showing a lot of promise. There were competing chains like Longhorn and Lone Star that were starting to gain traction, but I would argue that he implemented the theme more effectively and more aggressively than most. Just a few examples, you could order the Cactus Blossom or the Rattlesnake Bites as appetizers. The walls are decorated with a Texas theme, including a corner dedicated to country music singer Willie Nelson, who became an investor in the company before the public offering back in 2002. Every location has a jukebox that continuously plays upbeat country songs that used to be hand-picked by Kent Taylor. Some of the locations even have line dancing, depending on where you live, so it is all meant to create a fun, energetic atmosphere. In 2012, Consumer Reports surveyed over 47,000 people in a poll that that named Texas Roadhouse the noisiest chain in America. Kent Taylor responded to that survey by saying, "We are proud to be loud. Upbeat country music, laughter, full restaurants, and line dancing make for a great experience. It sure beats the heck out of wine-sipping, chirping crickets, and clinking silverware." Which I guess is a fair point. It offers an atmosphere that can be difficult to find throughout most parts of the country, leading me to the next reason on my list, which almost conflicts with the first reason, a local feeling. I think that they do a really good job at making it feel like you have been transported to Texas, but are still somehow in your own town. Similar to Applebee's in this way, with their "eatin' good in the neighborhood" slogan, Texas Roadhouse says that they strive to be known as the hometown favorite in each community that they serve. They do that in part by painting murals that relate to the area, formally selected by Kent Taylor, and by participating in community events. While most comparable restaurants rely on national ad campaigns, Texas Roadhouse does most of it locally. People see the ads at local events as opposed to television commercials, and it helps create more of a personal connection. I think it is interesting that the managers of the restaurants typically receive bonuses determined by pre-tax income of the restaurant that they manage. So even though about 85% of them are owned by the company as opposed to being franchised, the people running them still have a direct financial stake in how well it performs. To summarize here, even though the company has over 700 locations, none of them are quite like the one that is nearest to you. The next reason on my list is maybe the most important single aspect of any restaurant: the menu. Now, I always have trouble trying to talk about what makes the food appealing or unique at a specific restaurant without starting to sound like a commercial for that restaurant. So I apologize if that is how it sounds, but I have to talk about it, given that their mission statement is legendary food, legendary service. In fact, they use that word legendary so much, I had to check and make sure that Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother was not the one in charge of it. Texas Roadhouse is mostly known for its USDA choice steaks that are hand-cut daily in the restaurants, and they also have these ribs that take 3 days to prepare with their signature barbecue sauce. And they claim that a management-level employee inspects every entree before it leaves the kitchen, and most of those entrees come with 2 sides that are made from scratch. And by far, my own personal favorite part of the experience is the unlimited roasted peanuts in the shell and the yeast rolls that they also make from scratch, along with honey cinnamon butter. It is like their equivalent of the breadsticks over at Olive Garden, and for anyone who has tried both, please weigh in on which one you like better, because I am right in the middle on it. Now, clearly, there are steakhouses out there with way higher quality food, but I think most would agree that Texas Roadhouse provides a decent value, leading me right into the next reason: affordability. I do not have too much to say about this one, but Texas Roadhouse describes their food as moderately priced. They have always tried to open new restaurants within blue-collar and middle-class communities. During the Great Recession, they kept their sales strong by adding lower-priced items to the menu. In 2009, they even won Consumer Reports Award for Best Value. Today, the average check comes to around $22 per person, which, tell me if you disagree, but I would say that is pretty reasonable for a steakhouse like this. And I also want to point out that despite their focus on value, Texas Roadhouse has always reported profits. They have been making money every year since it has been reported, going back to the 1990s, and part of that can be attributed to their hours. During the week, they're only open for dinner, which really simplifies the operation and allows for fewer expenses. There's more that could be said about this, but it is mostly straightforward. So going back to the list, my next reason is a little more outside the box, but Texas Roadhouse has been complemented by other concepts. See, Texas Roadhouse is very intentional and consistent with what they do. Eating at one of their restaurants today is amazingly similar to how it was 20 or 30 years ago. Instead of trying to incorporate new ideas into their existing brand, the Texas Roadhouse company has expanded by starting other restaurants to take advantage of new trends or opportunities. In 2009, for example, Kent Taylor went right back to his beloved Colorado theme when he opened a casual dining restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky called Aspen Creek. But I guess after opening 3 of them over the next 5 years, it was determined that they were drawing customers away from nearby Texas Roadhouses, so they were all sold. A much more successful example would be Bubba's 33, a sports bar specializing in burgers, pizza, and wings, as well as a large selection of beer and cocktails. Bubba used to be Kent Taylor's nickname, and 33 was the year prohibition of alcohol ended in the United States. The first one opened in 2013, and they have since grown to almost 50 locations. Also, in 2014, they started a made-to-order fast casual restaurant in Indiana called Jaggers. This one is meant to rival Five Guys when it comes to burgers and Chick-fil-A and Raising Cane's when it comes to chicken. They have been slow and steady with this one so far, but given their resources available and the size of that market, we might start to see more of them opening sometime soon. I have to respect that Texas Roadhouse has remained strong by ambitiously trying to build new brands instead of diluting their existing one. My final reason behind the success of Texas Roadhouse is really more of an excuse for me to tie everything else together, and that is a positive reputation. I want to be careful here that I do not make it seem like everything has been perfect with this company, because there have been criticisms. The line dancing can certainly be polarizing, and there have been multiple lawsuits. Maybe the most publicized one was about age discrimination that was settled for $12 million back in 2017. But I'm talking overall, accounting for everything, this is a pretty well-liked place. There have been a bunch of charitable efforts, community involvement. During the pandemic, Kent Taylor gave up his salary so he could use the money to pay their employees. It is a fun and friendly environment with unlimited peanuts and rolls, and using that word unlimited is, well, a perfect way to get my attention. My guess is that if you look in the comment section, you will be able to find a lot of positive reviews. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about Texas Roadhouse? Do you think it deserves to be the biggest of its kind with over $5 billion in system-wide sales each year, or do you think it is overrated? Maybe you much prefer Longhorn or Outback Steakhouse as comparable alternatives, but for anybody who is a fan, what specifically makes you go there? Are the reasons included on my list, or is it something else that I failed to mention? And finally, what do you see for the future of Texas Roadhouse? Will it start declining like so many of its competitors? Will it become more reliant on Bubba's 33 or Jaggers, or will it continue to grow bigger and stronger than ever? And any other thoughts you have about Texas Roadhouse, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.